The sky was screaming. Not just the wind, the whole sky itself, like it was ripping apart above the village. Fires danced along rooftops. People were running, crying, slipping on the blood-soaked mud. And there I was flat on my back, a huge Viking warrior standing over me. His boots were made from the skin of some animal, wet with blood. He had wild blonde hair and a beard filled with beads and tiny bones. His axe was bigger than my whole arm, and it was raised high above his head. I couldn't move. I couldn't scream. My feet had sunk into the cold earth like I was trying to turn into a tree. My fingers trembled as I held up the only thing I had, a wooden spoon. A spoon, against an axe. Don't kill him yet. Someone growled behind the Viking, in a voice that made my skin crawl. He's still breathing. Let him watch what we do to his village. The Viking laughed. A deep, terrible sound. The axe came down, but it didn't hit me. Not yet. That's when everything went black. Let me tell you how I got here. Because trust me, you wouldn't last a day in a Viking raid. It started 3 days before the sky screamed. My name is Theo. I was 12 years old when it happened. Just a normal kid from a small fishing village called Dunstow. We had goats. We had mud. We had way too many potatoes and not enough fun. Nothing exciting ever happened in Dunstow, unless you count Old Man Hargle falling into the pig pen every full moon. I was bored most of the time, dreaming of battles and dragons and glory. Funny how dreams can stab you in the back when you're not looking. That morning, I was sneaking out of my chores. My mom had told me to clean the goat pen, but have you ever smelled a goat pen in summer? It's like someone cooked rotten cheese in a dragon's belly. I couldn't do it, so I crept around the back, thinking I'd steal a few berries from the woods and be back before she noticed. That's when I saw it. A ship. Not just any ship. A long, black shadow cutting through the sea like a blade. It had a dragon's head carved into the front, sharp teeth bared, and red sails that looked like bleeding wings. I froze. Blinked again. Must be traitors, I whispered to myself. Or pirates. Maybe just strange fishermen. But in my gut I knew. Vikings. I ran. Fast. Faster than I ever had. My feet slapped the muddy ground, my heart trying to punch its way out of my chest. I tripped over a chicken, shouted an apology, and kept going. When I reached the village center, I was out of breath and out of words. Ship, I gasped. Dragon ship. Coming this way. The blacksmith, a huge man named Brat, laughed. And I'm the king of Elfland. No, really, I shouted. It's real. I saw it, but nobody believed me. They patted my head, rolled their eyes, and told me to go help them with the goats. No one listened, except one person. Bryn. Bryn was 13, 1 year older than me, and definitely braver. She had wild red hair that looked like fire and eyes that could slice through lies like a sword through butter. She grabbed my arm and said, "Show me." We ran back to the cliff, overlooking the shore. But the ship was gone. "Are you kidding me?" she said. "Theo, if you're making this up." "I'm not. I swear." We waited. The wind picked up. Then just a flicker on the horizon. A red sail. Then 2. Then 4. She grabbed my arm. Hard. "We have to tell the elders," she said. This time, people listened. And this time, it was too late. The Vikings came like a storm. First, the smoke. Then the screams. Then the fire. Everything went wrong so fast. Our warriors tried to fight, but their swords snapped like twigs. The Vikings were giants. Monsters. They wore metal like second skin, carried axes like toys. They didn't talk. They roared. Bryn and I hid under the cart near the bakery, the smell of burning bread and flesh thick in the air. "I have to find my brother," she whispered. "He's still out there." "Are you crazy? You'll get killed." "Then stay here," she said. "I'm not leaving him." I followed. What else could I do? We dashed through alleyways, climbed over fences, and ducked into shadows as fire fell from the sky. It was like the world had turned into a nightmare. I saw things I can't ever unsee. Mr. Tallow trying to fight with a pitchfork, a Viking laughing as he kicked down our chapel, the well boiling from the heat of the flames. Then we found Bryn's brother. Barely. He was hurt. A big cut on his leg, bleeding bad. We dragged him toward the woods. If we could just make it to the trees, maybe we could hide. That's when we heard the horn. A deep, bone-shaking sound that rattled our teeth. "Run!" Bryn shouted. I didn't have to be told twice. We almost made it. Almost. A Viking spotted us. He chased us like a wolf chasing rabbits. We split up. Bryn pulled her brother one way. I ran the other. I tried to loop back, try to trick him. It didn't work. He caught me. That's how I ended up on the ground, with his axe over my head. And just when I thought it was all over... "Stop," said that voice behind him again. "He's not just a boy. He's the one who saw us coming." I turned my head. The man stepping out of the smoke wasn't like the others. His armor was darker. His eyes were colder. Around his neck, he wore something strange, a silver wolf's fawn. He crouched down, grabbed my chin, and stared at me. "You've got fire in your eyes," he said. "That makes you dangerous." I spat at him. I don't know why. Maybe I thought I was brave. Maybe I was just stupid. The Viking didn't even blink. "Take him," he said. "Alive." The last thing I saw was the butt of a spear smashing toward my face. Darkness again, but not silence. Because as the world went black, I heard something else. A girl's voice calling my name. Bryn's voice. Then a scream. Not mine. Hers. And that's where the Real story begins. When I woke up, the world was spinning. My head felt like it had been smashed by a rock, probably because it had. My hands were tied in front of me with rough rope that scratched my skin. My mouth tasted like dirt and ash. Smoke still curled through the air like ghosts, and everything smelled like fire and fear. I wasn't in the village anymore. I was in the belly of a Viking ship. The planks above my head creaked as warriors walked across the deck. Around me were other prisoners, some from my village, others I didn't recognize. A man with a bloody face groaned beside me. A little girl sobbed in the corner, holding her doll tight. I tried to sit up. Pain shot through my skull. The ship rocked side to side. Water slapped the wood like angry hands. I felt sick, cold, and completely powerless. This was real. I was in a Viking raid, and I had just survived the first part of it. But where was Bryn? I remembered her voice calling my name. Her scream, it echoed in my ears louder than the sea. I had no idea if she was alive, or captured, or... No, I couldn't think that. She had to be alive. She was too stubborn to die. The ship suddenly tilted, and we all slid to the side. A voice from above shouted something in a language I didn't understand, full of hard, growling sounds. Then the hatch above opened. Sunlight stabbed into the darkness. A huge Viking stomped down the steps, looking around at us like we were animals. He shouted again. 2 men followed him, dragging a bucket. They went from person to person, forcing water into mouths. When they reached me, I opened wide. My throat was like sandpaper. The water was cold, but it didn't feel good. It felt like swallowing rocks. Still, I drank it. I had to stay alive. The man who had looked into my eyes, the one with the silver wolf's fawn, came down next. The others stepped back when he entered. He had a way of walking like the ship belonged to him. Maybe it did. He stopped in front of me. "You're awake," he said in rough English. "Good." I stared at him. "You saw us coming," he went on. "You told your people." I didn't answer. "Smart boy," he said. "Too smart." He knelt beside me. "What's your name?" I didn't tell him. My heart pounded so loud I thought he could hear it. He smiled. It wasn't a nice smile. "You'll tell me soon," he said. "Or maybe your little red-haired friend will." My blood froze. Bryn. He had her. I lunged forward, but the rope held me back. I shouted, "Don't touch her." The Viking laughed. "Ah, there it is. Fire." He stood up and walked away. The hatch slammed shut, throwing us back into darkness. I don't know how many hours passed. Maybe days. The ship rocked and creaked and roared like a beast. Sometimes we got water. Sometimes we didn't. Sometimes they gave us hard bread that tasted like stone. I tried to sleep, but the nightmares wouldn't let me. When we finally stopped, I thought maybe it was the end, that they were going to dump us in the sea, or sell us, or feed us to wolves. But it was worse. They took us off the ship and marched us through a cold forest. Snowflakes drifted down from the sky like soft knives. I didn't even have shoes anymore. My toes turned purple. My fingers were stiff. Still, I looked for her. Every time they stopped, every time I could see the other prisoners, I searched for Bryn. But she wasn't there. They brought us to a camp. Not a village, not a city. A camp of warriors. Wooden huts and roaring fires. Big dogs with sharp teeth. A training yard where young Viking boys fought each other with wooden swords, laughing as they knocked each other into the snow. I got shoved into a cage. Not a house. A cage. Metal bars. Straw on the floor. A bucket in the corner. And next to me, two other boys. One was younger than me. The other had a swollen eye and looked like he hadn't eaten in days. What do they want with us? I asked. The older boy didn't answer. The younger one said, to make us fight. I didn't understand. What do you mean? Fight, he repeated. Like them. Or die. My stomach dropped. That night, the silver-fanged Viking returned. He stood outside my cage and tossed something inside. A bundle of fur. It hit the straw with a thud. I opened it. A tunic. Viking style. And next to it, a wooden training sword. You want me to fight? I asked. The man didn't answer. He just smiled that same awful smile. I'm not one of you, I said. Not yet, he replied. But you will be. The next day was a blur. They dragged me into the training yard. Other boys, Viking boys, stood in a circle. They had muscles and sneers and blood on their hands. One of them had a scar that went from his eyebrow to his chin. The Viking man, their leader, raised a hand. This one, he said, pointing to me, wants to fight like a Northman. I shouted, no, I don't. But they laughed. They tossed me a wooden shield. Then they threw me in. I didn't even see the first hit coming. The boy with the scar slammed into me like a bear. I flew backward, my shield cracking in two. Pain exploded in my side. The crowd laughed. I tried to get up. He kicked me in the chest. Stay down, someone shouted. But I didn't. I couldn't. I crawled to my feet, raised a broken shield like it was made of steel. The boy charged again. This time I ducked. He tripped. The crowd gasped. I didn't win, but I didn't lose. Not completely. After the fight, they threw me back in the cage. My nose was bleeding. My ribs ached. But inside me, something strange had started to burn. Not hate. Not yet. Something else. Something dangerous. Later that night, as I lay in the straw, someone whispered my name. I jolted up. Bryn. A shadow stood by the bars. It crouched down, and I saw her face. Bryn. Bruised. Dirty. Alive. She put her fingers to her lips. Chill. Then she whispered, I know how to get us out. And just as she said that, a horn blasted through the camp. Shouts. Screams. Smoke. The Vikings weren't alone anymore. They were being attacked. The horn's deep blast echoed through the trees, shaking the camp like thunder. Every Viking warrior jumped to their feet. Dogs barked and growled. The calm, cold night turned into chaos in seconds. Bryn disappeared into the darkness before I could say anything. Bryn, I hissed, gripping the bars of the cage. Wait, but she was gone. Outside, Viking warriors scrambled for weapons. Some grabbed axes, others rushed toward the edge of the camp. I saw one of them get shot in the chest with an arrow. He fell with a scream, and suddenly, fire lit up the forest. Who was attacking? Was it another Viking tribe? Bandits? Could it be? No, it couldn't be. Could it? Could it be people from our village? Had someone followed the Vikings back? The thought hit me like lightning. Maybe someone had survived. Maybe someone had come for us. The boys in the cage with me were wide-eyed. One of them grabbed my arm. Are we going to die? No, I said, my voice shaking. We're going to get out. I didn't know how. The lock on the cage was thick, heavy, and made of iron. The bars were solid. But if Bryn had found me, she might come back. She had a plan. She said she did. I just had to hold on. Then, as fire lit the night and arrows rained down, I heard something, a clicking sound. Soft. Quick. The cage door creaked. I looked up. Bryn stood there, holding a long pin in her hand. Where did you get that? I whispered. Stole it off the silver-fanged Viking, she whispered back. Now move. The cage swung open. The other boys rushed out behind me. We darted into the shadows, keeping low, dodging between huts and crates. All around us, warriors clashed, steel on steel, screams, fire. The enemy hadn't breached the camp yet, but they were close. We stopped behind a log pile. We need to go now, I said. We have to get to the trees. Bryn shook her head. Not yet. There's more. What do you mean? There are more prisoners, she said. In the back hut. Kids. From other raids. My heart dropped. We can't leave them. Exactly. One of the boys, the one with the black eye, shook his head. That's suicide. I don't care, Bryn said. They saved me once. I'm saving them back. I looked at her, then at the others. We'll get them. Then we all run. The hut was on the far side of the camp. Guards stood near it. 2 Viking warriors with spears. We needed a distraction. That's when the younger boy stepped forward. I'll do it, he said. I'll make noise on the other side. No, I said. You'll get killed. I'm fast, he said. And small. I'll run around the dog pens. They'll chase me. You go for the hut. Bryn looked at him. What's your name? Joran, he said. Bryn nodded. You're brave, Joran. He gave a nervous smile, then sprinted into the shadows. A moment later, we heard it. A loud clang, a yell, and then barking. The guards turned, spears raised, and ran toward the noise. We ran the other way. The door to the prisoner hut was locked, but the wood was old. Bryn took a thick stick and jammed it into the edge. I grabbed another. Together we pushed and pried. Inside, 6 kids stared at us, thin, dirty, and terrified. It's okay, I whispered. We're here to help. Bryn helped them to their feet. One of them was so small, I had to carry him. We rushed back out into the cold. But the fire had spread. The camp was blazing now, flames crackling, smoke stinging our eyes. Warriors shouted in every direction. And then we saw him, the silver-fanged Viking. He stood tall on a rock, axe in hand, shouting orders to his men. His eyes swept the chaos and locked on me. His face twisted in anger. There, he roared. The boy. Stop him. I froze. Then I ran. We all did. Behind us, heavy boots slammed the ground. I heard dogs bark, men scream. Bryn led us through a gap in the camp wall, a hole she'd found earlier, hidden by branches. We slipped through. Snow crunched under our feet as we darted into the trees. Branches whipped at our faces. The cold air bit at our lungs. But we didn't stop, not even when I stumbled, not even when one of the rescued kids cried out from a cut. We just kept running, until we couldn't hear the screams anymore, until the fire was just a flicker behind the trees. We collapsed in the snow, panting, shaking, bleeding. We had escaped, but not all of us. Joran, he hadn't come back. Bryn sat in silence. Her face was pale, her fists clenched. He saved us, I said. She nodded. He was braver than any of us. The silence hung heavy around us. Then Bryn stood. We're not done yet. What do you mean? I asked. We know where the Vikings live now, she said. We know how they take people, how they fight, how they camp. So we fight back. I stared at her. With what army? She looked at the kids we'd rescued. Then at me. With whoever's left. It sounded impossible. But something inside me, that same fire the silver-fanged Vikings saw, was burning hotter than ever. I stood. Then let's find them. But just as we turned to move, the trees behind us rustled. Bryn grabbed a stick. I picked up a stone. The branches shook again. Then a Viking boy stepped out. He was our age, dressed like the others, but his eyes were wide, scared. He held up his hands. I don't want to fight, he said. I want to help. We stared at him. Why? I asked. Because they killed my mother, he said. And I want to stop them too. And that's when we realized the Vikings had enemies everywhere, even among their own. We stood frozen, staring at the Viking boy. The firelight flickered through the trees behind him. He looked about 13, tall and skinny, with shaggy brown hair and a long scar on his cheek that looked fresh. He wore a fur-lined tunic and boots made from animal hide, but he wasn't holding a weapon, just standing there with his hands up, breathing fast, his eyes darting between Bryn and me. I mean it, he said again. I want to help you. Bryn stepped in front of me, her stick raised. We're not stupid. You're a Viking. I'm not like them, the boy said quickly. They're monsters. I never wanted to be part of it. I narrowed my eyes. Then who are you? My name is Eirik, he said. My mother was a slave. She tried to escape last year. They found her. She didn't make it. He looked down. His voice went quiet. They made me watch. For a long moment, no one spoke. Bryn lowered her stick just a little. So why are you helping us now? Because I saw you, Eirik said, looking up. I saw what you did. You freed the others. You ran right into danger. And I heard what the chieftain said. He wants to use the smart ones. Make them part of the warband. That means you. Me? I asked. Eirik nodded. You, the boy who warned his village. They think you're clever. They're not going to kill you yet. They want to break you, then turn you into one of them. I felt my stomach twist. No, I said. Never. They'll try, he replied. That's what they always do. That's what they did to me. Bryn looked him over. If you're lying, I'm not, Eirik said. I snuck out during the attack. They won't miss me until morning. Bryn crossed her arms. So what now? Eirik pointed through the trees. There's a cave. Not far. Hidden. We can stay there for a night or two. Then, I can help you find the other raider camps. The ones where they keep more prisoners. You know where they are? I asked. Eirik nodded. All of them. Bryn glanced at me. I nodded slowly. Lead the way, she said. We moved carefully through the forest. Eirik led us over a frozen stream, under low-hanging branches, through thick patches of bramble. We were cold, hungry, and exhausted. One of the younger kids slipped and fell, but we helped him up. Finally, we saw it, a narrow opening between two giant boulders, half hidden by snow and moss. Inside, it was dark and dry. The floor was packed earth. The ceiling hung low, but it was safe. We curled up close, sharing what little warmth we had. Eirik helped us start a tiny fire with a flint stone he carried. The kids huddled around it like moths to a flame. As we sat, I watched Eirik. He didn't act like the others. He didn't brag or boast or shout. He looked tired and sad. Do they know you're gone? I asked. Not yet, he said. But when they do, they'll hunt me. Won't they find this place? Eirik shook his head. Only me and my mother knew about it. She used to bring me here when I was little. Said it was the one place in the world that didn't belong to anyone but us. Bryn was quiet. Finally, she asked, how many other kids are out there, captured like we were? Eirik sighed. Dozens. Maybe more. They send some north to be trained. Others to the coast to be sold. Some disappear. I clench my fists. They can't get away with this, I said. Bryn looked at me. So what do? We fight, I said. We find the others. We get them out. Eirik nodded slowly. We'll need help. More than just us. Then we find help, I said, even if we have to cross the mountains. Just then, the wind outside howled like a wolf, and the fire flickered low. Suddenly a sound, a twig snapping. Bryn shot to her feet. Shoo, she whispered. Another snap, then a growl. Not a man's voice. A real growl. Eirik's eyes widened. Wolves. Bryn grabbed her stick. I picked up a stone. A dark shape moved at the cave's entrance, then another. Red eyes glowed in the dark. They followed the scent, Eirik whispered. There were 3 of them. Big, gray, hungry. They padded into the cave, teeth bared, growling deep in their throats. One of the younger kids whimpered. Get back, Bryn said, pushing the others behind her. The wolves crept closer, muscles tight. Then they pounced. The first one lunged straight at me. I swung the rock with all my strength. It slammed into the wolf's snout with a crack. The beast yelped and stumbled back. The second wolf leapt at Eirik. He rolled away, then grabbed a burning stick from the fire and thrust it forward. The flames hissed. The wolf snarled and backed off. Bryn charged the third one, jabbing with her stick. It bit the wood, shaking its head, then snapped at her leg. She screamed and kicked it away. Get out, I shouted. Out of the cave. The kids scrambled toward the opening. One wolf followed. I saw it lunge at a small girl. Without thinking, I dove forward and tackled it midair. We tumbled across the ground. Its teeth snapped inches from my face. Eirik stabbed it with a flaming stick. It howled and ran off. The others followed, vanishing into the trees. For a moment, everything was still. Then the youngest boy began to cry. I looked down. My arm was bleeding. The wolf had nicked me. Bryn knelt beside me. Are you okay? I nodded, even though the pain burned like fire. Better than the wolf, I muttered. Eirik crouched beside us. We need to move. They'll come back. And next time, they won't be alone. Bryn nodded. Then let's get far away from here. She helped me to my feet. And as we walked into the dark forest once again, we weren't just a group of scared kids anymore. We were survivors, and we were getting stronger. Snow crunched under our feet as we left the cave behind. The sky was still dark, but a faint glow showed on the horizon. Dawn was coming, slow and pale. We didn't speak much. The wolf attack had shaken everyone. The younger kids stayed close together, and Bryn helped the smallest one walk. My arm throbbed from the bite, but I didn't say anything. I didn't want the others to worry. Eirik led the way. He moved fast, like he knew the forest by heart. Sometimes he stopped to listen, ears sharp, eyes scanning the trees. Then he'd keep going, waving us to follow. After a while, we came to a stream, frozen on the edges, the middle still trickling. Bryn broke the ice and cupped water into her hands. We need food. Eirik nodded. There's a village not far, just over that ridge. He pointed. Not Viking, just farmers. They trade with both sides. I frowned. Will they help us? Eirik shrugged. They'll help if they think they can make something from it. Like what? Bryn asked. Gold, furs, or information. We all looked at each other. We don't have anything to trade, I said. Eirik looked at me. But we do have something. You. What? He took a breath. You escaped the silver-fanged chieftain. That's a story. A powerful one. If the farmers believe you can beat the Vikings, they'll listen. Maybe even hide us. I didn't feel powerful. I felt cold, hungry, and hurt. But I nodded. Then let's go. We climbed the ridge. My legs ached with every step. The cold bit through my tunic. I could see my breath coming out in white clouds. One of the little girls slipped, and Bryn caught her just in time. By midday, we reached the village. It was small, only a few huts, a barn, a frozen well. Chickens scratched to the snow. Smoke drifted from chimneys. It looked peaceful, too peaceful. As we stepped into the clearing, people stared. A man with a thick beard stepped forward, holding a pitchfork. Who are you? Eirik raised his hands. We don't want trouble. The man's eyes narrowed. You're a Northman. I was, Eirik said. Not anymore. Bryn stepped forward. We escaped the Vikings. They took us. We ran. Please, we just need food. More villagers came out. A woman holding a baby. An old man with a walking stick. 2 boys with bows. The bearded man looked at me. Is this true? I nodded. They raided our village. Burned it. Took us. We got away. He studied me for a long moment. Then lowered the pitchfork. You'd better come inside. They led us into a long hut warmed by a central fire pit. The smell of stew made my stomach growl loud enough for everyone to hear. A few people laughed softly. Bryn and I helped the little ones sit. The villagers brought out bowls of soup and rough bread. It wasn't much, but it tasted like a feast. I told them everything. Well, most of it. I told them how the Vikings came, how we were taken, how we escaped the fire, the cage, the camp. I told them about Joran's sacrifice, about the kids we rescued, about the silver-fanged chieftain. When I finished, no one spoke. Then the old man stood. You saw the silver fang? Yes, I said. He nodded slowly. That's no ordinary raider. He's a blood chief, one of the old ones. Cruel as winter, clever as a fox. If he marked you, he won't stop hunting you. I swallowed. The old man turned to the others. We can't send them away. Not now. They've seen too much. They're part of this. A woman stood. But what about the war bands? If they find out we helped? They won't, Bryn said quickly. We'll leave soon. No, the bearded man said. You should stay. Rest. Just a little. Let the little ones grow stronger. Then, maybe we can talk about helping each other. Helping how? I asked. He leaned forward. We're not the only village who's sick of the raiders. Others are tired of being afraid. Maybe this is the start of something bigger. I looked at Bryn. She gave me a small nod. That night, they gave us a room in the back of the longhouse. Soft hay, warm blankets, a candle for light. I lay there, staring at the flickering flame. Everything had changed. We had allies now, a place to rest. Hope, but it didn't last. I woke in the dark to a sound. A deep, horrible horn. Not from the village, from the trees. Then came shouting, screams, fire. Bryn sat bolt upright. No, she whispered. They found us. I jumped to my feet. Outside, the village was burning. Again, the flames lit up the night like a second sun. Orange and red danced across the rooftops. Smoke curled into the sky, thick and black. Screams echoed through the village. Bryn and I rushed out of the longhouse, blinking through the smoke. Villagers ran in every direction, trying to save their homes, their animals, their lives. And there they were, the Vikings, charging through the snow like shadows with axes. Tall and terrible, their war cries louder than the wind. One of them wore a black wolf pelt and swung a blade as long as my arm. Another had red paint smeared across his face like blood. And at the center of it all, the silver-fanged chieftain. He sat on a black horse, calmly watching as the village burned. His eyes found me through the fire and the chaos. He smiled. He was hunting me. Run! I shouted to the others inside. Get the kids out. Eirik burst through the smoke, dragging two of the younger ones by their hands. We go through the field, he yelled. North! Now! Bryn was already moving, helping the others out of the house. The villagers fought back, with pitchforks, kitchen knives, bows, but they were no match. One by one, the defenders fell, some with barely a scream. I picked up a burning stick from the fire pit and held it like a sword. My legs were shaking, but I didn't move. One of the Vikings came straight at me, tall, wild eyes, axe raised. I didn't think. I just swung. The stick cracked against his helmet. He stumbled. I ducked under his arm and bolted into the smoke. I found Bryn near the edge of the village, dragging a little girl who had tripped. I helped her lift the child, and together we ran. More horns, more shouting. Arrows flew over our heads. Suddenly, a scream. Eirik. We turned. He was on the ground, a Viking towering over him, sword ready to fall. No! I screamed. Bryn grabbed a rock and hurled it. It hit the Viking in the shoulder. He snarled and turned. I charged. Everything went slow. I didn't feel brave. I felt furious. I slammed into him with all my weight. We both fell into the snow. His sword dropped from his hand. I grabbed it. He grabbed my arm. We struggled, rolling, punching, yelling. Then I raised the sword and I didn't swing. Someone else did. A pitchfork stabbed the Viking in the back. It was the old man from the village, bleeding, limping, but alive. He gave me one last look. Run, boy. Then he fell. I grabbed Eirik and pulled him up. Come on. We ran. All of us. The kids, Bryn, me, Eirik. We didn't stop until the forest swallowed us again. We collapsed in a hollow between two trees. My hand shook. My arms were covered in soot and blood. Eirik was breathing hard, his leg cut. Bryn stared into the darkness, silent. We can't do this, I said. They're too strong. She didn't look at me. We have to. They'll never stop chasing us, I said. Not until we're... They will, she interrupted, if we make them afraid. I didn't understand. Afraid? She looked at me then, eyes blazing. We do what they never expect. We go after them. Not just escape. Not just hide. We hit back. Eirik nodded slowly. Their next raid is in 3 nights. A small village by the coast. I overheard it. They think it's weak. I sat up straighter. You want us to stop the raid? Bryn smiled. Not a happy smile. A fierce one. No, she said. I want us to steal their ship. Eirik blinked. What? They land. They raid. They leave the ship on the beach with just a few guards, she explained. We take it. Then we're not running anymore. I stared at her. It sounded impossible. Insane. But also, exactly what we needed. We couldn't run forever. If we took their ship, we could escape. Or strike back. Or even find others who would fight. It would be dangerous. Deadly. But better than waiting to die. I'm in, I said. Eirik grinned. Me too. Bryn looked at the others, scared, tired, cold. They need a real chance, she said. And that night, we began planning our first raid. Not as victims, but as warriors. 3 nights later, we were crouched on a cliff, looking down at a Viking ship beached on the sand. Torches glowed near it. Only 4 guards stood watch. The rest were inland, raiding. Bryn whispered now. We moved like shadows. One guard walked toward the trees to relieve himself. Eirik knocked him out with a rock. Bryn and I crept up behind the other 2. My heart pounded. My hands were sweaty. I raised my stick, then stopped. A guard turned. His eyes widened. Hey! Bryn tackled him. The other swung his axe. I ducked, rolled, grabbed a fallen sword. He charged. I stepped aside, and he ran into the blade. I stood there, frozen, sword shaking in my hand. Bryn got up, breathless. You okay? I nodded slowly. We climbed aboard the ship. The wood creaked under our feet. Bryn took the steering pole. Eirik checked the sails. I turned back to the shore. The fourth guard had escaped. He was running back toward the village. I raised my hand to shout, but was too late. The horn blasted. Again, the raid wasn't over. Now it was coming for us. The horn howled through the night like a wounded animal, deep and terrifying. On the beach, the fourth guard vanished into the trees, shouting as he ran. In the distance, flames flickered. The village the Vikings were raiding was burning. They'd be back any second. Bryn gripped the steering pole, her knuckles white. We have to move. Now. Eirik was already at the sail ropes, pulling with all his strength. The wind whipped at our faces. The sail flapped wildly, then caught, billowing wide like a dragon's wing. The ship jerked forward. Push off, Bryn yelled. I grabbed an oar and shoved us away from the sandbank. The hull groaned. The ship rocked. Then freedom. We were drifting, out to sea, but behind us, the forest screamed with angry voices. Torches lit up the hill. Viking warriors burst from the trees, weapons raised. They see us. Eirik shouted. Arrows flew. One slammed into the wooden mast. Another hit the deck near Bryn's foot. A third flew past my ear. Faster, Bryn shouted. We weren't far from the shore yet. The tide was slow. The Vikings were racing toward the water. They'll swim after us. Eirik cried. No, I said, pointing. They have another boat. And they did, smaller but fast. Pulled into the water by 4 raiders, paddles already slapping the waves. We need wind, Bryn said. Real wind. She looked up, eyes desperate, mouth moving, like she was begging the sky to help. And somehow, it did. A sudden gust slammed into the sail with a loud pop. The ship lurched forward, cutting through the water like a knife. The smaller boat struggled behind, paddlers shouting as they tried to keep up. Get ready, Bryn called. They're gaining. We grabbed what we could, broke in oars, loose rope, even burning wood from a torch Eirik had grabbed. The small Viking boat drew closer. Too close. One of the warriors leapt from his boat, trying to grab the side of ours. I swung my oar. It cracked against his arm. He screamed and fell back into the sea. Another tried to hook us with a rope. Bryn grabbed the torch and shoved it at the rope. It burned fast. The hook splashed into the water. We fought like cornered wolves, dirty, loud, scared, but together. And somehow, we won. Their boat couldn't keep up. The wind carried us further out. The waves grew bigger, rougher. The Viking boat turned back, the warriors howling with rage as we vanished into the darkness. We didn't cheer. We didn't laugh. We just sat there, exhausted, shaking, soaking wet. We had done it. We had stolen a Viking ship. We were free. For now. Eirik was the first to speak. We can't stay on the open water for long. We don't have enough food. We'll need to find land, Bryn agreed. Somewhere they won't expect us. There's an island, Eirik said, pointing northwest. Not far, hidden by cliffs. It used to be a trading post long ago. No one lives there now. Perfect, I said. Bryn looked out over the sea, her face calm, but her hands still tight on the steering pole. Do you think they'll stop chasing us? I asked. She didn't answer right away. No, she said finally. Not until we end this. We sailed through the night, the stars above us like tiny fires in the sky. The wind stayed with us, strong and steady. Eirik fixed a small sail tear. I cleaned the blood off the deck. Bryn didn't sleep. She just kept watch. By morning, we saw the cliffs, tall and dark, rising out of the sea like the backs of sea serpents. The island. We steered toward a narrow inlet and slipped through jagged rocks. Seabirds cried overhead. The water was calm, the cliffs high enough to hide us completely. The ship slid onto a small strip of sand. We jumped down, stretching our legs. The island was quiet, dead quiet. Old wooden posts stuck out of the ground, remains of buildings from long ago. Moss-covered stones lay where walls had once stood. A rusted anchor sat in the grass. This place gives me the creeps, Eirik said. Which is exactly why it's perfect, Bryn replied. We made a fire in a pit surrounded by rocks. Caught fish with sharpened sticks. Boiled water from a stream. Even younger kids helped gather firewood. For the first time since the raid, we weren't running. And for the first time, I saw something on Bryn's face I hadn't seen in days. A smile, but it didn't last long. That night, as we sat around the fire, a strange sound echoed across the water. Boom, boom, boom. Not thunder, not wind. A drum. Low, slow, distant. Eirik sat up straight. That's not good. What is it? Bryn asked. He stared out to sea, eyes wide. That's how they signal each other, he said. War drums. Someone's calling for help. I stood. They're coming here? No, Eirik said. They don't know where we are, but someone else is calling for them. Bryn stood too. Then we move before they find us. No, I said. Wait. Everyone looked at me. What if we don't run? I said. What if we go see who's calling them? Eirik blinked. Are you serious? I nodded. They called the Vikings. That means they know something. Maybe it's a trap. Maybe it's a traitor. Either way, we need to know who they are. Bryn crossed her arms. You want to go to the enemy? Only for a look, I said. We watch. We listen. We learn. She looked at the kids, then back at me. All right, she said. But we go together. We left the others with food, weapons, and instructions to hide if they heard anything. Eirik guided us around the cliffs to a place where we could spy on the sea without being seen. And what we saw was worse than we expected. A giant ship, much bigger than the one we'd taken, was anchored near the shore. Black sails, iron spikes along the sides. Dozens of warriors gathered on the beach. And among them, the silver-fanged chieftain, laughing, speaking to someone in a cloak. We couldn't see his face, only the back of his hood. Who is that? Bryn whispered. I don't know, I said. But he's not a Viking. No, Eirik said. He's worse. Just then, the hooded man turned, and we saw his face. It was someone we knew, someone from our village, someone who helped the Vikings come in the first place. Bryn gasped. No, it can't be. I stared, stunned, because it was true. He had betrayed us. And now, he was working with the silver-fanged chieftain. This wasn't just a raid. It was a plan, and we were right in the middle of it. We lay flat on our bellies, hidden in the brush on the cliff above the beach, staring in shock. I don't believe it, Bryn whispered. Her voice was thin. Hollow, that's Mr. Harlund. It was Mr. Harlund, the old trader from our village. The one with a crooked back and a beard that always smelled like fish. He used to give us sweets from his cart. He'd help fix my boot once when it tore. He was nothing special, just a wrinkled man with a quiet smile. And now he was standing beside the silver-fanged chieftain, pointing at a map. He wasn't just helping the Vikings. He was leading them. Why would he do that? I said, barely able to breathe. Why would he? Because people like him don't fight with swords, Bryn said quietly. They fight with lies. And gold. We watched as Harlund waved his hand across the map, tracing lines with his bony fingers. The silver-fanged Viking nodded. Several warriors gathered around. He's giving them our villages, Eirik muttered. All of them. We have to stop him, I said. Bryn looked at me. How? I didn't know, but I knew we couldn't just sit there. Then something changed. A horn blew, short and sharp. Harlund turned toward the forest edge and clapped his hands. And out walked people. Not warriors. Prisoners. Dozens of them. Men, women, and children. Chained and scared. My blood turned cold. They're going to take them to the ship, Eirik whispered. The silver-fanged chieftain raised his axe and shouted something. The guard started pulling the prisoners forward. Bryn's hand closed into a fist. We have to do something. Like what? I said. There's too many of them. She didn't answer right away. Then she turned to Eirik. Can you get to the ship? He nodded. Maybe, if I go around the ridge. What are you thinking? I asked. We don't fight the warriors, she said. We take their escape. If we steal their second ship, they'll be stranded. That'll only slow them down, I said. Not if we destroy it, she replied. I blinked. You want to burn their ship? Yes, she said. Right here, right now. I looked back at the prisoners being dragged toward the shoreline. We can't just leave them. We're not, she said. We distract the Vikings with fire. Smoke. Panic. That's when we hit. We break the chains. We get them out. It was risky. Stupid even. But the alternative was worse. Watching it happen. I nodded. All right, let's do it. Eirik split off from us, crawling back into the trees and disappearing down the side path. Bryn and I moved lower down the cliff, staying in the shadows, our feet silent in the snow. Closer, closer. We reached the edge of the beach just as Eirik lit the sail on the second Viking ship. The fire caught fast. A blaze shot up into the sky like a torch. The Vikings shouted. The silver-fanged chieftain spun around, bellowing orders. Now, Bryn whispered. We darted from the shadows, right toward the prisoners. One guard saw us. He raised his spear. Bryn tackled him from the side. I grabbed a stone and slammed it into the chain lock. Once, twice, 3 times. The lock cracked. Chains clattered to the ground. Run, I shouted. Get to the woods. The prisoners scattered. Another Viking lunged at me. I ducked, swung the chain in his face, and kicked him in the knee. He went down. Behind me, Bryn was swinging a broken or like a club. Another lock snapped under her feet. Smoke billowed around us from the burning ship. Screams, fire, chaos. And then, a roar. A real one. The silver-fanged Viking charged through the smoke, his axe raised. I turned. He was coming straight at me. I had no sword, no stick, nothing. He swung. I dropped, rolled, barely missed the blade. The ground shook when he stomped after me. Face me, coward, he roared. I jumped up and ran. He followed. Through the trees. Through the smoke. Right into the woods. It was a trap. Bryn was waiting behind a tree with a rope in her hand. As I passed, she yanked it tight. The Viking tripped and crashed into the snow with a grunt. We didn't wait. We ran. All of us. The prisoners, the kids, Eirik, Bryn, and me. We sprinted into the forest, not looking back until we heard the ship behind us groan and collapse into flames. The silver-fanged chieftain's scream echoed after us. Not a scream of pain, a scream of rage. We stopped running hours later at the mouth of a cave deep in the hills. Everyone was exhausted, shaking, coughing, but alive. We lit a small fire, hidden by rocks, gave the prisoners what little food we had, and for the first time, we felt something new. Not just survival, not just fear, but power. We'd done the unthinkable. We'd stolen their ship. We'd burned another. We'd saved people. Bryn sat beside me, her hair a tangled mess, her face smeared with soot. She smiled. You know, she said softly, we might just have a chance. But then Eirik returned from his lookout post, pale as snow. They're not retreating, he said. They're calling reinforcements. Bryn stood. How many? Too many, he whispered. He looked at both of us. They're bringing the war to everyone. And the firelight flickered across our faces as we realized. The next raid wouldn't just destroy a village. It would burn everything. The cave was cold and damp, but no one complained. Not after what we'd just seen. Eirik had climbed a ridge above the valley and spotted the Viking signals. Black smoke spiraling into the sky in long, slow bursts. It wasn't just one column. It was 3, spread across the horizon like claws. Each one meant the same thing. War bands. Dozens of them. Being called to the same place. Us. They're bringing everyone. Eirik whispered again, kneeling near the fire. Not just raiders. Shield maidens. Berserkers. Even the ones from the north. The ice cloaks. They don't come down unless it's serious. Bryn was pacing, her arms crossed, eyes locked on the flames. They're scared, she muttered. I stared at her. Of us. She nodded. They've never been challenged before. Not like this. We burned their ship. We freed prisoners. That makes us dangerous. That also makes us a target, I said. Bryn stopped pacing. Good. Everyone in the cave looked at her like she was mad. But I understood. They thought we hide, run. But now the Vikings were afraid. That meant we had power. And it was time to use it. The next morning, we got to work. We couldn't fight the Viking horde alone. We need allies. Villages. Survivors. Anyone willing to stand with us. Bryn drew a map in the dirt, using stones for villages, sticks for rivers, and leaves for forests. There are 5 villages they'll go after next, she said. But this one, she pointed at a cluster of stones near the coast, has walls. Blackstone. It used to be a fortress. I've heard of it, Eirik said. They never raid it because it's too hard to burn. Exactly, Bryn said. If we get there first, we can hold it. Turn it into a base. A real one. What about supplies? I asked. There's a fishing port nearby, and woods, and farmland, enough to feed us and maybe others. I nodded slowly. If we can convince them to fight. They will, Bryn said. Once they know we've already done it. We set off at dawn, moving through frostbitten woods and across frozen streams. The group had grown. Prisoners we'd rescued, some brave villagers, even a few former raiders who'd turned against their own, including one shield maiden named Liv, who had fled after her brother was killed in a raid he didn't believe in. We're not all monsters, she said, gripping her axe. Some of us just never had a choice. The journey was hard. Snow turned to sleet. Wolves howled at night. We barely slept, ate what little we could scavenge, and stayed away from roads. Scouts might be watching, but at last we saw it. Blackstone, a village surrounded by walls made of thick, dark rock, older than anything I'd ever seen. A tall wooden gate, watchtowers with archers, smoke drifting peacefully from chimney tops. It looked strong, safe. We walked straight to the gate. The guards aimed bows at us immediately. "Who goes there?" one shouted. Bryn stepped forward. "My name is Bryn of Dunstow. These are free people. We've escaped the Viking raids, and we've come to fight back." There was silence from the wall. Then footsteps. A man appeared, tall, scarred, with gray in his beard and eyes like stone. "You burned one of their ships?" he asked. "We did," Bryn said. "You stole another?" "We sailed here." "You freed prisoners?" "We brought them with us." He stared at her, then at me, then at the group behind us, ragged, tired, bruised, but standing tall. Finally, the man nodded. "Open the gate." That night, we slept in real beds for the first time in weeks. We ate stew with herbs, drank warm broth, and sat by firelight as villagers gathered around to listen. Bryn told the story. Every word. People leaned in, eyes wide. Some cried. Some laughed. Some clenched their fists. By the end, the room was silent. Then the gray-bearded man stood. "My name is Wulfric," he said. "I once fought in the king's army, before it fell to the Northmen. I thought the fight was over." He looked around the room. "But maybe, just maybe, it's only beginning." He turned to us. "You've earned a place here, and if what you say is true, then we must prepare." That night, Blackstone began to change. Lookouts doubled. Traps were set in the woods. Villagers sharpened old swords. Children gathered stones and poured boiling water from towers for practice. And we planned, not just to defend, but to attack. We couldn't wait for the Vikings to come again. We had to strike first. Eirik brought news from scouts. The Vikings were gathering at the river fortress. A huge stone bridge crossed the water there. If they crossed it, they'd reach Blackstone in 2 days. So we made a choice. We'd go to the bridge. We'd stop them there. And we'd destroy it. Not just block it. Blow it up. There's a weakness, Liv told us, drawing in the dirt. A tunnel under the bridge for water to pass. If we fill it with pitch and light it, it'll collapse, I finished. And trap the army on the wrong side of the river. It was risky. We'd have to sneak past patrols. Carry heavy barrels of pitch. Time the explosion exactly. But if it worked, we could save every village east of the river. We left that night. Just 6 of us. Me, Bryn, Eirik, Liv, and 2 of Wulfric's best scouts. We reached the bridge just before dawn. Fog rolled off the river, thick and wet. The Vikings hadn't arrived yet, but the campfires on the far side told us they were close. We found the tunnel. We rolled in the barrels one by one, quiet as shadows. Then we waited. The Viking army approached, marching in the mist. Hundreds of them. Drums beat. Feet stomped. Shields slammed together. They reached the middle of the bridge, and Bryn lit the torch. She looked at me once. No fear, just fire. Then she tossed the flame into the tunnel. The ground shook. The bridge roared. Stone cracked. Screams echoed. And the mighty bridge of the Viking warpath broke apart and collapsed into the river. Hundreds of Vikings fell with it. The others screamed in fury. We ran. Smoke and fire behind us. Water crashing. And we knew. We had won. But not the war. Just one battle. Because far in the distance, another horn blew. And this one was deeper. Older. Not a Viking horn. Something worse. Something ancient. And it was coming for us. The horn rolled over the hills like a mountain groaning awake. It wasn't sharp and angry like the Viking war calls. This one was slow and deep, like it came from under the earth. Everyone froze when they heard it, even Liv, whose hands had never once trembled in battle. Bryn turned to me, her face pale. That's not a Viking horn. Eirik's eyes were wide. It's the Draugr. What? I asked. He swallowed hard. They're not men. They're worse. No one spoke. Then the earth itself seemed to hum, and we felt it, a slow pounding in the ground like far-off footsteps. Not a run, not a charge, a march, an ancient one. We didn't wait to see what it was. We ran, through the forest, back toward Blackstone, slipping on icy roots and ducking under branches. The wind had changed. It carried something foul now, like rot and rust and old things that should have stayed buried. When we reached Blackstone, the gate opened fast. Wulfric met us inside, sword in hand. What happened? We destroyed the bridge, Bryn said, breathless. But something's coming, I added. Not Vikings. Something else. He frowned. What do you mean? Eirik answered. The horn. The Draugr. They're old warriors. Dead ones. But they move. They follow the silver-fanged one. Not because they're alive, but because he made a deal. Wulfric's eyes darkened. Black magic. I remembered the silver-fanged chieftain's eyes. Too sharp, too bright. How he never bled in battle. How his wounds healed fast. I thought it was just fear, but maybe it was something worse. We didn't have much time. That night, the sky turned red. Not from fire, from the moon. It rose like a wound, full and bloody. The wind howled through the trees, shaking branches and rattling shutters. People lit candles. Mothers held children. The old priest whispered prayers in corners. And the pounding came closer. Boom, 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 like drums made of bones. We took positions. Wulfric on the wall with his archers. Liv at the gate with a spear in each hand. Bryn and I in the tower above the gate, looking down the path. It was quiet. Too quiet. Then, out of the mist they came. Figures. Dozens at first. Then hundreds. But they didn't run. They didn't yell. They walked. Their armor was ancient, rusted, twisted. Some had no faces left. Just skulls under shattered helmets. Others dragged broken swords or axes. Their eyes glowed blue, like ice. They're dead, someone whispered behind me. But they weren't. Not really. They moved with purpose, with hatred. And in the middle of them, riding a black horse whose hooves didn't touch the ground, the silver-fanged chieftain. He raised his axe, and the dead charged. The first wave hit the wall like a storm. Arrows flew from above, piercing skulls and armor. Some Draugr fell, then got back up. Liv speared two in the chest. They didn't flinch. She switched to cutting heads. That worked. Go for the heads, she screamed. I grabbed a pile of rocks and began hurling them down. Bryn lit a line of oil-soaked wood and kicked it from the wall. Flames swallowed the path, stopping the second wave for a moment. But they didn't scream, didn't fear fire. They just walked through it. One of them climbed the wall. I swung a torch and knocked it down. It fell, then started climbing again. I turned to Bryn. We can't hold them. We have to. Then came the second horn. Louder, closer, but not from the enemy. From behind, from the trees. Another force charged into the clearing. Horses, riders, spears raised. I couldn't believe my eyes. It was the villagers we'd warned, the ones who'd escaped. Farmers, traders, survivors. And they weren't alone. Berserkers, real ones. Vikings who had turned against their own, tired of the blood, seeking redemption. Led by a woman with white paint over her eyes and a hammer bigger than my chest. She roared and swung her hammer into a Draugr, shattering it like glass. The battle turned. We fought together, wall and field. Bryn with a sword, Eirik with a bow, me with a burning log. And for a moment, just a moment, we were winning. Then everything stopped, because the silver-fanged chieftain entered the battlefield. He walked calmly, dragging his axe. Every Draugr stopped moving. Every fighter turned to watch. He raised his axe, pointed it at me. You, he said, his voice like ice cracking. You are the reason they fight. I didn't move. You saw us coming, he said. You lit the fire. You're the spark. I will put it out. He stepped forward. Bryn moved in front of me. You'll have to go through me. Gladly, he growled. He charged. Their blades clashed like thunder. Bryn fought with everything she had, every step, every swing. But he was stronger, faster. Magic flowed through him. He struck her sword away, raised his axe. I screamed. He turned, and I tackled him. We rolled across the battlefield. His axe flew from his hand. I punched, kicked, bit anything. He grabbed my throat, lifted me. I gave my soul for power, he hissed, and I'll use it to end yours. Then, a flash, bright and hot. The white-painted berserker had thrown her hammer. It hit the chieftain square in the chest. He flew backward, slammed into a stone, and didn't get up. The Draugr froze, then crumbled. One by one, the field was silent. We had won, but not without cost. Bryn lay on the ground, not moving. I ran to her side. She was breathing, just barely. We did it, I whispered. She smiled, weakly. Told you they'd be afraid. That night, we burned the remains of the Draugr, buried the dead, sang songs of victory and sorrow. The war was not over, but it had changed. We were no longer the hunted. We were the storm, and every Viking from that day forward would remember. The dead may rise, but so will the brave. Snow fell quietly the next morning. The battlefield that had been full of screams and fire the night before was now still. The fallen had been buried, the wounded were being tended to, and the living, well, we were different now. We were no longer just survivors. We were warriors. Bryn lay inside Blackstone's healer's hut. Her side was wrapped tight with bandages. She hadn't woken up yet, but the healer said she would. Strong as a bear, that one, he told me. She's not going anywhere. I sat beside her, holding her hand, waiting for her eyes to open. I want to tell her everything. How the Silver-Fanged chieftain's body had vanished in the night. How the magic had left the air like a breath finally released. How the surviving villagers had begun calling her the Flame of Dunstow. But for now, I just sat there listening to her breathe. Outside, the new army was gathering. Yes, an army. Wulfric was no longer just a village leader. He was a general. Liv, the white-painted berserker, had stayed. She stood at his side, training recruits, sharpening blades. People from other villages, even former enemies, had begun arriving, drawn by the stories. And there were so many stories. About the boy who warned a village. About the girl who stole a ship. About the fire at the bridge. And about the night the dead came and were turned back. I didn't feel like a hero. I felt tired, but also ready. Eirik joined me outside the healer's hut. He looked different now. Older, even though it had only been weeks. His bow was strung over his shoulder. His hands were covered in calluses. They're building a real wall now, he said, nodding toward the edge of Blackstone. Stone and wood. Towers. Traps. We'll need them, I replied. He nodded. I talked to some scouts. They say the Silver-Fanged one isn't gone. I frowned. We saw him fall. We saw him hit a rock, Eirik said. That's not the same. He looked around, lowered his voice. They say he's part of something older. That the Draugr weren't just summoned. They were waiting. Waiting for a sign. A sign for what? Eirik hesitated, then said the rise. I blinked. What's that? No one knows. Just that it's coming. We stood in silence, until the healer poked his head out. She's awake. I rushed inside. Bryn was sitting up, pale but grinning. Took you long enough. I almost laughed. Did we win? She asked. We did, I said. You missed it. I tackled a warlord, and a hammer flew through the air, and... She raised a hand. Let me guess. You saved the world. I smiled. Not yet. She reached for my hand. We're not done, are we? I shook my head. No. The next days passed fast. Plans were drawn. Messages sent to every corner of the land. We trained with Liv, shield drills, sword work, even how to move silently through snow. The kids we once rescued now trained beside us. And then one night, as we stood watch on the wall, a fire appeared on the mountain ridge. Not smoke, not flames. A fire in the sky, green and gold, swirling. Not normal, Liv said beside me. That's old. What does it mean? I asked. Wulfric joined us. His face was hard. It means he's still alive, he said. And he's ready. Bryn came up the steps, now walking with a slight limp. She looked up at the fire in the sky. Then so are we. The next morning, a message arrived. Not a letter, a banner, thrown into the snow by a rider who vanished before we could reach him. It bore a symbol we'd never seen before, a crown made of bones, and below it, a single word burned into the fabric. Soon, we knew then, the Silver-Fanged chieftain wasn't just planning another raid. He was planning a war to end, and this time, he wasn't bringing just raiders or Draugr. He was bringing something else, something worse. Bryn looked at the banner, then at me. "We go to him," she said, "before he comes to us." "You mean sneak into the enemy's stronghold?" I asked. She nodded. "Yes. If we kill him before he rises again, we end this for good." I glanced at Eirik. He gave a crooked smile. "Well, we've done worse." Liv grunted. "And survived." Wulfric frowned. "I won't order you to do this." "You don't have to," Bryn said. "This is our fight." And so, just before dawn, we set out once again. Bryn, me, Eirik, and Liv. For warriors. For sparks. Marching toward the darkest part of the map. Toward the heart of the Viking horde. And whatever monster was waiting in the shadows, ready to rise. We traveled through the frostlands like shadows. 4 of us. No banners. No horns. Just footfalls in snow and the breath of cold wind on our necks. The land grew stranger the farther we went. Dead forests where trees stood black and cracked like bones. Rivers frozen solid with strange red weeds trapped inside. The scouts had said the Silver-Fanged chieftain had a fortress deep in the northern mountains, a place where no sunlight ever touched. Locals called it Gravemoor, the grave of heroes, and the cradle of monsters. That's where we were going, to end this once and for all. On the 3rd night, we reached it. Gravemoor. It wasn't a fortress like Blackstone. It was a mountain hollowed out, sharp and cruel, with stone towers built into the cliffs and bridges made of chains. The sky above it glowed faint green from that strange light, the same light we saw on the night the dead rose. And in the center of it all stood the Silver-Fanged chieftain's new banner, a crown of bones, just like the one from the message. "We don't sneak in," Liv said as we crouched behind an icy ridge. "Not this time." "No," Bryn agreed. "We make them come to us." She stepped out into the open. I wanted to stop her, but I didn't. I followed. We stood in the snow, 4 specks against the mountain. Bryn shouted up at the fortress, her voice loud and clear. "You, Silverfawn, coward, come face the girl who burned your ships." Nothing moved. Then a horn blew, not one like before. This one was different. It sounded like it came from deep underground. And then he stepped out. He wore no helmet, no shield, just his black armor, cracked and glowing at the seams. His axe was strapped across his back. His eyes gleamed with the cold blue of the Draugr. But he was alive. Sort of. He stood on the bridge above us and smiled. "You came all this way," he said, voice carrying through the wind. "For what?" "A fight." Bryn stepped forward. "No, for justice." He laughed. "You think killing me will end it? I'm not the fire. I'm just a match." "You're a coward," she said. "A butcher hiding behind old magic." He drew his axe slowly. "Then come," he said. "Let's see what your justice looks like." And then everything exploded into chaos. Dozens of Draugr poured from the cliffs, their armor rattling, their eyes dead. Liv roared and met them head-on, her hammer smashing bone and steel. Eirik climbed the ridge, firing arrows with perfect aim. Bryn and I ran for the bridge. We had one shot. We dodged fire, frost, and flying blades. A Draugr lunged. Bryn cut it down. Another came at me. I ducked and smashed it with my shield. And then we were there, face to face with the Silver-Fanged chieftain. He looked at Bryn, then me. "You've come far," he said, "but you're too late." He raised his axe. Bryn rushed in first. Their blades clashed, sparks flying. I circled behind him, but he was too fast. He spun, knocking me back with a kick that sent me sliding across the icy stone. Bryn fought like fire, fast, furious, unbreakable. But he was stronger. He struck her in the side. She screamed and fell. "No!" I shouted, charging. He turned, ready to end me. But I wasn't alone. Eirik's arrow slammed into his shoulder. He stumbled. Liv's hammer smashed into the bridge behind him, shaking the whole thing. Cracks split the stone. He raised his axe for the final blow, and Bryn, bleeding but alive, drove her blade straight through his heart. The silver-fanged chieftain froze. His mouth opened, but no words came. His axe fell. His knees buckled, and with a final gasp, he crumbled into ash. The Draugr shrieked. Their eyes flared, then went dark. One by one, they fell. The magic was broken. The storm was over. We stood on a shattered bridge, surrounded by silence. No war horns, no fire, just the wind. Bryn collapsed into my arms. "It's done," she whispered. "Yes," I said. "It's done." We carried her back. We buried Liv in the valley below Gravemoor, where the mountain casts no shadow. Her hammer stood as her grave marker. Blackstone welcomed us like heroes. But we didn't want cheers. We wanted peace. And for the first time in our lives, we had it. Bryn healed, slowly. Eirik became captain of the guard. Wulfric retired and gave us his home. As for me, I taught the children how to fight. Not because I wanted them to, but because I wanted them to never need to. And sometimes at night, I walk to the edge of the forest and look at the sky. The green light is gone. The horns are silent. But I remember. I remember the fire, the ice, the roar of the dead. And I remember the title of our story. Why You Wouldn't Last a Day in a Viking Raid. Because it wasn't just blood and blades. It was fear, cold, loss. It was having nothing but a wooden spoon against an axe, and standing tall anyway. That's why. But now it's over. The raiders are gone. The dead sleep once more. And the spark that lit the fire still burns. Inside me. Inside her. Inside all of us who live to tell the tale.